Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's really interesting, the topic of vegetarianism, why and how. Well, when you start thinking about it, first off, there are multiple types of vegetarianism. One is fruitarian, and the fruitarian people eat only, obviously, fruits. Next up, you have vegans. Now, vegans do only vegetables, may or may not do grains and nuts. And also, there's a no-cook aspect to vegetarianism, in where the grains are soaked in water, and that's another way of instead of cooking and raising the temperature in the cooking process, because when you get to about 160, 180 degrees, you're killing any enzymes. And enzymes are essential to your health, especially when it comes to digestion. And we'll go through some of that. So there's veganism, then you have vegetarians, who will eat anything and everything across the board as long as it's vegetables, nuts, grains, legumes. Then there's lacto-ovo vegetarians. And the lacto-ovo, actually lacto standing for dairy, ovo for eggs. So the lacto-ovo vegetarians will eat eggs and dairy products. And then that's basically it for the different styles of vegetarianism. And when I thought about why become a vegetarian, there's four fundamental aspects to the self. You have an emotional self, a social self, a spiritual self, and a physical material self. On my own personal story, it was more coming from an emotional place, in the sense that some of you kids can remember in the 60s, the whole thing was getting your act together. And I was at one of those places in life and didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be. And a friend of mine said, if you took the energy out of your stomach that it takes to digest meat and put it back into your head, then maybe you would wake up. And believe it or not, that actually made sense to me. And that was my motivation for becoming a vegetarian. Now, in today's world, and I'm not going to get into the philosophical aspects of it, I'm not going to get into your emotional aspects, but from a spiritual perspective, some people become vegetarians because they don't want to take the life of a creature. I'm going to approach vegetarianism and why you should become one or think about becoming one from the perspective of health, because health is what I'm about. Health is my vocation. I do nutritional counseling. I do holistic counseling. I have a supplement company, and this afternoon I'm going to be talking about avoiding cancer, and you'll understand why even becoming a vegetarian is tied into that indirectly. So from that perspective, from a health perspective, one of the first reasons that we don't want to become, or we don't want to continue on the particular American diet, is because all you have to do is look around at our society and you can begin to see that we are sickly. We spend more money than any other country in the world. We spend exactly $6,997 per person to be well in this country. And the truth of the matter is, we're something like the 13th, 14th, I've also heard the 37th sickest nation in the world. So why are we so sick? Where is all this disease coming from? It's coming from the diet, pure and simple. You can't breathe in as many toxins and poisons as you're getting in the water you drink, the food you eat, and the chemicals you apply to your skin, let alone the chemicals you're living with. Because if you've got those plug-in room fresheners, well, you're putting out a chemical all the time into the air, and your body has to deal with it. From a health point of view, from a vegetarian point of view, some of the things, the first thing that comes up is, what is your health goal? What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to get to be 70, 80, 90, and 100 with vitality? Or do you want to be in a wheelchair? These are questions that you really have to ask yourself. What do you want out of life? I can tell you, because I've just put my mom into an assisted living facility because her legs no longer work, or she's going blind. She's already lost her hearing, and she's dealing with a little bit of dementia. And when I look at her, and I think of how old she is and the state of her health, I think I'm good for 200 because my diet has been so dramatically different. And the hardest thing in the world is going to be changing your diet. And the reason it's hard is because there are emotional associations with your foods. You all know the concept of comfort foods. You know, you feel a little down, so you want to go get a little chocolate ice cream, or at least that's what it was in our house. I don't know what it is in your house. Could be vanilla. And, you know, or a little piece of cake, or a little piece of this, or a piece of that. And these are your comfort foods, but no one ever thinks about the rest of the food in the meal. And becoming a vegetarian and moving away from meat is extremely difficult. Because if you take a look at meat, most of the meat commercials, now I'm not talking about McDonald's, because with McDonald's it's always about being happy. Everything that McDonald's does, all the companies, what they really are selling you is emotional wellness. You want to be happy, eat this food. But the truth of the matter is, the foods work against you. And meat, I can remember, it was Winn-Dixie, you know, it was all the men sitting around the campfire, the cowboys, and what do cowboys eat? What does a good man eat? A good piece of meat. Well, it's just like the old Marlboro man. You know, you want to be a man, you want to be an outdoor kind of guy, a cowboy kind of a guy, you're going to smoke Marlboro cigarettes. You want to be a man, you're going to eat a good piece of meat. And truth of the matter is, if you knew everything, and I'm going to do this to you, I'm going to tell you what's in meat and allow you to really think about the chain that goes on and what you're doing to your body. First off, let's go back to the food. Now, I used to have property out here in New Braunfels, and my next door neighbor had cows. And he told me that when the cows get to be 6 months old, they send them off to a feedlot. And at the end of another 6 months, they have doubled their weight from 600 pounds to 1,200 pounds. Now they're good for slaughter. Okay? How do they get them so heavy so fast? One is hormones. And if you've noticed, you'll see a lot of the young guys today are virtually hairless. Their skin is flaccid. Men are developing mammary glands. In fact, the amount of breast cancer in men has grown dramatically. And there's a reason for this. And part of it is the hormones. And because all of these animals, meat and fowl, are in such close proximity to each other, they're loaded up with antibiotics. Now, when you think about the feed, it's grown in fertilized soil, chemically fertilized soil. It is sprayed consistently with herbicides, pesticides, to ensure that there will be a good crop. And because it's grown in a chemicalized soil, some of those chemicals get into the food stuff itself. Then it goes to the feed area. Now they're giving the cows hormones and antibiotics because of the close proximity. They're also doing the same thing for chickens. And because of the, these chemicals are coming into the body, and this is the same thing that happens in your body. Here's what goes on when you ingest a chemical. Whether you eat it, breathe it, drink it, or apply it to your skin. Once the chemical is there, it gets into your bloodstream. Once it's in your bloodstream and circulating, and because right now your body is making new cells. You're building, conversationally, 1 billion new cells. So whatever you had for breakfast this morning is participating in the construction of these new cells. If you had a chemical, and that chemical gets in and corrupts the DNA of that cell, Now you have